we try to infuse the two, you know, two culture in the same.
Welcome. It's Edgar Snowden time. Prism, we're looking for you. My perfect audience, I'd love you to take a deep breath with me. Oh. Here we are at Hamlin, yet again, the Buddhist Alzheimer's home for the hospiceless. And I've been thinking, I met a friend, an old friend, Ben Levine, used to stay with me out there when I lived on Pearl Street, 271. He came up and stayed. He helped me paint the floor blue. Nice. He was my best friend for a number of years. Really close friends. I thought we'd be friends forever, pretty much. But that's not how it happened. We fell out probably, well, actually must have been 15 years ago when I got married. He came to my wedding, didn't send a card, never said nothing. Found out afterwards he didn't like it. But that was just the culmination of a whole bunch of things that we'd been saving up against each other. We had a 7 or 8 years after that, I actually wrote to him, asked him what had happened, because I never heard from him after my wedding, which is now long past and gone. Still, when we did communicate, it was with angry words. Never thought I'd see him again. But we have a common friend, Richie and Kathy. And I used to hang out with them. We used to do some certain things over there every morning. Hang out. Ben used to be there, come sometimes, with Central Maine Power. And Bob Ruttman, all those folks. First off, I was in the Kundalinis. I had a turban, a white turban, but I still hung out, still kind of kept my connection with Cambridge. And I used to get food for the Central Maine Power people. And after that was a kind of one of those hippie scenes where we were all community until we weren't anymore, until some of us screwed some of the others. Some of us felt screwed, like I did, like I told you. Great Eastern Trading Company, like that happened. Ben Levine didn't do that, of course. He was another kind of friend. And when we fell out, it was kind of sad, because I liked him. So then maybe 3 years ago, again, at a New Year's Day party at Richie's, with whom I'd also had a little kind of parting of the ways for a time, although not dramatic. It wasn't dramatic like it was with Ben, but I've been kind of circling back around, and now that I, for the last, well, year and a half or so, live in Cambridge again, almost around the corner from Pearl Street, where I used to live. And so I'm just a couple of blocks from Richie and Kathy, and so Saturday morning I stopped over there. And who should be there but Ben? He was just flying back from Mexico. He lives up in Maine now. And they get these grants, and they I guess they make videos of languages that are dying and their last speakers. Good work. Buffalo Soldiers in the culture wars. I'm taking a deep breath. Because sitting there, it was actually nice. The first 2 times I'd seen him, it had been a little bit tense, and I was glad my partner Y, my tantric practice partner, was there at both those New Year's Day things, and she kind of smoothed it over, and we had a nice kind of fine how are you. But Saturday was a little bit better than that. And so it brought up kind of 40, 45 years later, brought up all, here we were sitting together, just as I'd imagined we might be 45 years hence. But it was all different. It was friendly. There was kind of genuine warmth. And it felt like some of those mornings when we used to sit around and do our things and be hippies together. Those were the days, of course. This time it brought up all those people I once thought I'd be friends with forever. Pat Coffey, Terry Coffey, Barry Goldwater, no, not the mushroom cloud Barry Goldwater. The Barry Goldwater who bought me a bike but then didn't, was my insurance agent and then wasn't, shouldn't be, let me down. Other people, Larry Cohen, we were friends for a while. Then we fell out when I left a message. Message that I thought was on his phone, but evidently somebody else in his household picked it up, and I said something that in that context I shouldn't have. And all that circled back around reminded me a little bit of the Saturday with Ben and Richie and Kathy, and then the Sunday at men's group. We've been in this men's group, I've been in this men's group for 15 years now. We talked about old age and death and the 50th reunion of Woodstock and the sadness, the inherent sadness of how we once thought it was going to be and it never turned out to be that way. All those people who we thought would be there for us and weren't. And maybe them people thinking we'd be there for them and aren't. There's a kind of sadness coming to terms with old age and sciatica and scoliosis and septicemia. It all happens. And any time now we'll die, although I'm hoping it won't be today. So sitting there with Ben, we talked about his trip to Mexico and what he was doing and the fact that he'd had a serious heart operation last year, I think it was. Just now recovering, just now able to go back down and do what he now does. And it seems sad to me that I hadn't known about it. Not that I could have visited him, but I imagined that had it been how I imagined it would have been, that I would have been there for him. Like my friend Mikey last week, who came to start that conversation about old age and about death. You got to talk about death. Not too many people talking about death. And then there's the epi-death. extinction 2112. That's where we're headed. Herbie for president. In my herbal administration, see if we can put it off for a little bit. Though I don't think, in the end, truth be told, that I'm going to be able to beat Hillary or Jebich. But never mind. Those are the counter-futures I'm imagining now. And if it could be like that, if it could be here at Hamlin at the Buddhist Alzheimer's home for the hospiceless, and us, perfect audience, we're listening. Hear me. I understand. I'm taking a deep breath. I ask you to join me. Because I think of this half hour we spend together pretty much every week now as a point of presence and practice and prescience. We're practicing intention and intuition. And we intend, I intend. And those of you who are my perfect audience, we intend to slow down to half speed, maybe 36 times. We're the Lamed-Vavniks, the last of the just, and we just do it. Just keep on, keeping on. Keep on letting go. Surrendering how we imagined it ought to be in the counter-future, because it ain't no counter-future that comes along. Its reality is exactly the way it's supposed to be. BDS, Zionist, us, Dayenu. Anusim, Zionisht Anusim, we are. This is Yibonics. This is the Mamaloshen of Menschlichkeit. Those of us who are really doing it are trying to develop the language of Inca, of enlightenment, of suchness, of emptiness, of volitional letting go. We are the willing suspenders of disbelief, walking around with our pants down by our drawers. But we got our suspenders, our emotional, psychic suspenders. They be holding up our pants. As we see those folks hip-hopping around the square, we see all them balding folks and toothless hags, and the body goes soft, expands, keeps going, and you find yourself with that little paunch you never thought you'd have. But there you are, and you do what you do. You try and keep it together. You try and do your exercises. But what are your exercises, especially if you got sciatica? And then there's my friend Andy Pratt, who I've connected with again. It was Andy I went to went to Woodstock with. And it's been nice seeing him. I see him every once in a while. Although we had a little tete-a-tete at Freeman Z's. Freeman. ZZ the Zionist. No, he's not. But never mind. So Ben Levine. There was a kind of sadness in seeing him. We were there together, and yet we weren't. We didn't make any plans to see each other. Though perhaps we will. It was nice enough so that if we bumped into one or another again, it wouldn't be uncomfortable. Then my friends. I still got some friends. There's Brian and there's Mikey. Mikey, old Mikey, he's going in for his scan, he said. Maybe I'll go with him. 'Cause you can use some help when you go in for them medical procedures, especially if they turn out to be heavy-duty ones, and his might turn out to be a hat check girl for big science. But never mind. You wonder, how does this all happen? It happens as you create the scene, the best case scenario for the counter-future. In our herbal administration, Herbie for precedent, you can imagine it, how it would be if the ghost species relict activity, if the Coke 1% master narrative official story, if it wasn't all about money and being monetized and commoditized, Coakley, the Petco paradigm, arbitraging, the contango, Libor rated is the fixated. We are opt-armed, arsed, back to the future. It's sad that this Holocene is going the way of all things that pass. This is the middle passage of the Holocene. We're halfway there, exponentially speaking. And the next step's going to be a big one with 2020 hypo hindsight. Is hypnopompic. The way this American dream is turning out. It's hypnopompic and centrifugal. There are centripetal maneuverings and gamma radiation bursts and GHB, and there's Cosby and Madoff and OJ White Justice and Ferguson. All them things is happening, and it's sad. It's sad. Now gay people can get married. That's a good thing. And you can smoke marijuana if you got a medical marijuana extension. Who would have thought it'd take 50 years in 1968 at that 29-29 Harvard-Yale victory that was filmed, talked about, with Vic Gatto and Champy, Frank Champy, who had a head on his shoulders and didn't want to be identified with just that moment, as if his life had stopped then, which it hadn't, because he probably became some kind of big Harvard graduate kind of Frank Champy. He was good though. That was a good game. And Vic Gatto stepped up like Darrell Revis, Malcolm Butler, and LeBron and Beyonce. It's all happening out there. There's a lot of reality to come to terms with, to contend with. We do the best we can, practicing intention and intuition above the call of duty and booty. Us 36, the tantric, ahimsic, akashic, artistic, shamanistic, synesthetic sangha. Anatta, anicca, dukkha. It's the eightfold origami path that we're on. And it's half empty or half full, depending on your point of view. Let's take another deep breath. .350.org. Some people doing some things. I went down to New York for that climate march, for all the good it did. You never know, though. Things change in the funniest of ways. And I call your attention to Indian Point, 25 miles from New York. Just got its license renewed, though it's leaking and cracking up. The embrittlement of nuclear power plants is well known, and there's gonna be an accident. It's just a matter of time. Mark my words, to market democracy. The Koch 1% master narrative official story suggests bailing out AIG and Goldman Sachs. And the high-frequency traders are the result. The rigged system, where the high-frequency traders built all that hardware, all those fiber optic cables, and get themselves co-located in the actual exchanges so they can front run the whole liberated, is the fixated derivative market. And the Bitcoin blockchain, that's what I'm betting my money on. In our herbal administration, we're going to have a moratorium on money and monetization. And we're going to go Bitcoin, because there's a blockchain and there ain't no front runners. Although, even there, the system will get gamed, but less so. And we won't have the bomb trains, the Koch IED bomb trains. And Keystone XL and Line 61 and all that oil in Kalamazoo River. And the Cayuga is burning outside Cleveland, or at least it was. And they ain't fixed it up, and even now the Exxon Valdez aftermath makes those places uninhabitable. It's sad. I would have hoped it'd be different in the hippy-dippy days channeling Ramdas, when Ramdas was channeling Neem Karoli Baba in his blanket. Ramdas, thank you. Amy Goodman, thank you. Michelle Alexander, thank you. Ben Levine, thank you. Richie and Kathy, Lee and Tom, the whole cast of characters, the men's group, my friend Jeffrey. You're all there. It's good. It's good to have friends. It's important to have a community here at Hamlin. Buddhist Alzheimer's Home for the Hospiceless. In our herbal administration, we're going to support communities, make them sustainable cosmologies, quantifiable queequeg moments where we throw the bones and the runes and we stop the pipelines. And the Pied Piper at Hamlin be playing his fife, taking away the children. To some kibbutz, Dayenu genug shoin. Let's take a deep breath.
Welcome to Hawk, Healing Our Community Collaborative.